Torch mission is to improve educator instructional effectiveness by providing schools and organizations with a robust suite of online professional learning tools and insights. We harness the power of video, actionable data, and expert coaching to promote high-quality growth opportunities for educators, accessible at any time and from anywhere. We provide a centralized location for personalized learning, collaboration, and growth.
I'm Elise Savadak, the Director of Account Services with Torch Talent.
And I'm Erin Murphy, the Manager of Account Services with Torch Talent.
Welcome back to our inaugural podcast series, People of Talent. Education has an impact on all of us. We are excited to continue to explore the journeys of real people as they navigate the ever-changing world of education.
Today, we are talking to Dr. Melissa Jackson from Audio Enhancement Incorporated. Based in Salt Lake City, Utah, Audio Enhancement Inc. was started in 1978 with a focus on enhancing classroom education by ensuring every student had the opportunity to hear. The company continued to focus on innovating solutions to maximize learning for students and developed product lines to support many aspects of classroom education. Recently, they have partnered with Torch Inc. to offer a comprehensive professional learning platform, combining Torch Talent with their video interactive education window, otherwise known as ViewPath.
Dr. Melissa Jackson is a regional educational development specialist at Audio Enhancement. With 20 plus years of experience in K-12 education and education technology, Melissa has a lot of insight into video in the classroom. Melissa works with school districts throughout the U.S., including teachers, school leaders, and district leaders to assist them in designing plans that will help them ensure successful implementation of audio enhancement solutions, embed them into their daily curriculum, and create powerful professional learning opportunities that allow for self and peer reflection.
So first, I'd like to thank you so much for joining us today, Melissa. We'd love to get started with what brought you into education in the first place. If you'd like to tell us a little bit about your experience and how your journey began.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited. This is super cool to me just because I had started in education when I was super young. I started as a parapro at 17 years old. And I did this because as a student, I hated the classroom. I was one of those kids. I was one of those kids that I thought, this is so boring. I don't want to be here. I was a super nerd, and I really loved to learn, but I didn't like being in the classroom. Mm-hmm. And so I found myself as a parapro at 17 years old thinking, gosh, is this really what students have to deal with every day, all day? And I started that journey because I had a couple of fantastic teachers myself. And so, in school, you're sitting there and you're thinking, this is so boring, this is miserable. But then you have one or two teachers that just really light up the classroom for you. And so I had a couple myself, and I will never forget, I got to high school and I had Ms. Julia Boyum, who was my algebra teacher in 9th grade. And she was one of those teachers that just made learning everything you want it to be. And I couldn't wait to get to her classroom. And of course it was algebra. I mean, nobody likes algebra, right? But she made algebra so much fun. And I could not stop thinking, this is what it's supposed to be. Like, I want everybody to love to learn like I do. And so that kind of struck a chord with me. And I was on this quest to make everybody want to be a nerd like I was. And so I decided that I wanted to teach. And so I started as a parapro at 17 years old. And I went and started getting my teaching degree, and I started in my very own classroom at 20 years old. And it was terrifying.
Yes.
It was like the craziest thing I've ever been in. But I was super blessed, and I had great leaders all around me that, kind of molded me and mentored me and just kind of baby stepped me into things. So I didn't ever have that first year where, all these teachers give you these horror stories. Mm-hmm. I never really had that because I had this amazing mentor who just really made teaching everything I wanted it to be. So I was just have a love for learning, and I have a love for teaching and helping people to see that you can love learning and it doesn't have to be this boring thing. So I have lots of experience in K-12 education. I taught in the middle school classroom for 16 years in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade language arts.
And middle school stuff.
Yes, I always say that I have to be just bipolar enough so that they really get me and they don't know what they're going to get the next second.
Absolutely.
But I really love my middle school kids. I found I was always kind of the little tech guru, and they kind of always threw things at me to try first. So that landed me at the district office, being the Instructional Technology Coordinator. And I was able to work with, I was in Newton County Schools, and I was able to work with the district and helping them to actually implement we were the first district nationwide to implement cameras in every classroom. And so that was a huge step, and it was really, really scary. We always said that we were not on the bleeding edge. We were like bleeding out. But it was super cool, and it was one of those things where you kind of find, okay, this is really where I was meant to be. And so I not only got to work with teachers and students in education, but I got to work with district leaders and teachers and really showing them how to make their classroom really engaging and fun. And, you know, fast forward to now, as we implemented in the classroom with all of these cameras, it became something so innovative that other districts were looking at us like, okay, what are they doing? This is so cool. And Best Foot Forward even kind of looked at us because they were doing a study on camera usage in the classroom, and they realized we were doing something, and so they even utilized us to put in their study. So it was just super cool, and just really was able to use my passion to really serve educators everywhere.
What a cool journey.
Yeah, I mean, I know you also, I believe you did your PhD on video in the classroom as well, didn't you?
I did.
Can you tell us a little bit
about
that?
Absolutely. That actually kind of was all round up because of my passion and what I was able to do in the classroom and in the district in Newton County. So when we implemented cameras in the classroom, we found just how amazing it was. And of course, it was terrifying because, you know, I was pulled out of the classroom as a teacher. And when you go into the district office, they always look at you like you're going to the dark side. So it was difficult enough, you know, going to the dark side, but then I was kind of tasked with, here, you're going to implement the cameras in the classroom. And the teachers looked at me like I was crazy. They're like, what are you doing? We don't want a camera in your workspace. But what we found was just amazing. Teachers started to really embrace the cameras and started to use them for the collaborative nature, and started to really take them and create collaborative learning spaces. So I became really interested in this and wanted to see, well, what more can we do? So I worked on my doctorate, and I created a curriculum piece, and it is titled Cultivating Collaboration, a curriculum to enhance professional learning for educators through feedback. So my passion really became taking that video that we allow teachers to put into the classroom and allowing them to use it to really continue the growth as they are teaching, and allowing them to get feedback that we've never been able to have as teachers. And so I created the district strategic planning guide, the facilitator guide, and the teacher collaboration guide that allows teachers, district leaders, administrators, everyone to kind of embrace a more collaborative culture and give teachers feedback to allow kind of continue their professional growth, because that's something that we don't really do well in education.
Absolutely. And it's so amazing how your background fits so perfectly with this partnership we've developed. When I was a new teacher, I think Elise and I both started pretty young, not as young as you, 20 or 22. And,
21 or 22.
Yeah, 21. And you know, in middle school classroom for me, and I was super hungry for feedback. We just didn't really have a tool with us that could allow our administrators to come in our classroom more frequently. And it seems like video is such a simple solution. What kind of challenges have you faced in doing this work?
Absolutely. So you feel my pain as middle school kids. Yes. And as a middle school teacher, especially a new teacher, and what I found is it's not even just the new teachers, but the new teachers seem to be really hungry for it. And then as the older teachers, not older, let me take that back, but the more experienced teachers are in the classroom, we tend to almost kind of get into our groove, and we just kind of start to do things by, what is trial and error. So, we tend to start to fix things by, oh, it didn't work this year, let me try to fix it next year. So I think about all of these kids who, they could have seen such a better side of me had I had these tools earlier on in my career. So we absolutely, I never forget, I had an administrator who was an amazing administrator, but I just didn't have the feedback from him because he wasn't an ELA content leader. And so, he would come in and he would give me these little pieces of feedback, but it was always feedback that was more general. And he really couldn't give me feedback that was specific to my content. And so I really longed for that. And I think that a lot of educators do. So the challenges that we find still relate to the same things. We find that teachers want feedback, but we are not used to receiving quality feedback. So we tend to kind of see it in our own little bubble. And then when we do get it, we get scared. We're like, wait, what is this? Are you evaluating me, or are you trying to help me grow? And that is exactly what we found with this. Teachers think of a camera in the classroom and they think, oh, they're evaluating me, because that's been the standard in education. No, and I'm sure you guys have seen the same thing. I know that if you're used to being in the classroom, you remember this almost feeling that somebody's coming in your classroom. Oh, they're gonna evaluate me. They're gonna give me that satisfactory or unsatisfactory. It's not about true feedback.
Mm-hmm. That's like fits. I was telling Erin this story too. I remember being a first year teacher, and I was scared of being evaluated because teaching was the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life, right? Like, it's so unpredictable. Loved my kids to death, but it was like, what are you guys going to throw at me today? So, it was already really hard. And I think teaching was the first time I experienced this like heartbreaking failure time and time again of like, what can I do to get better? And I was so scared that someone was going to come in and say, well, you're doing bad today. Like, you're unsatisfactory. And I would be like, well, tell me how I can fix this. Right. So I remember not even with video, like just wanting my door to be shut and kind of closing off because I didn't know how to be receptive to good feedback. And then, like you mentioned, I had, one person who came in and gave me such amazing feedback. I started to request that they came in like after the first period I taught that day. I taught high school, and they would observe me. And then in my planning period, I'd like make all these adjustments and I'd be ready for the rest of the day when I was first starting. Yeah. So, I think it's amazing what powerful and like quality feedback can really do.
Absolutely.
But I think the other piece is this like video piece, because even though I had people just like Erin, even though I had people giving me really great feedback, it was like, they couldn't get in there as often as I wanted them to. And so for me, that's what I think, where I think video could be really beneficial. But with all of your experience with video, whether it's like with teachers or coaches, different role types, what do you think is most beneficial about having video in the classroom?
Well, I think that it changes the game a bit, because, even if I could finally find someone to give me that little piece of feedback, when they come into my classroom, in my experience, I was always that teacher that I was doing fine. There was never anything that they said, oh, you're doing a terrible job. So I was that okay teacher. And so when they came in my room, if there was an emergency in the front office, if there was a kid that was fighting, if there was something, they were always going to be pulled out really quickly. So they were never going to really give me that full just attention that I really wanted. And so I always had to go and beg for that feedback. And then they had to rely on their notes as to, oh gosh, what was really going on in there. And then it was me explaining, well, this is why I did it this way, them explaining, but this is how I perceived it. So there was never a way for me to see from anyone's perspective but mine. So, I even remember when I was doing my student teaching and then even my master's program, I would pull out the big tripod with the big video recorder, and I would have my kids follow me around and record me. And what was crazy was that I thought even then, oh, this is amazing. I'm doing a jam up job, but it was so teacher focused. It was only getting me. And so I would always remember thinking, well, but if it was such a jam up job, then why do I still have, little Antonio in the back of the room who is sleeping? Why do I still have Amanda in the back of the room who is still flicking somebody in the ear? I still couldn't put those two pieces together. And so the video has changed so much with what we're doing, because now I've got a camera that is mounted and it's giving me the 360 view. And it's allowing me to take a different look. I can now see it from the kid's perspective. I can now see it from the administrator's perspective. I can now see it from it's like a holistic view now. And I can see from everyone's perspective, not just through my eyes. And so it's allowing me to take a look at, okay, I was doing a great job when I was up there, teaching at the board, but my back was to the board, to the kids the whole time. And so no wonder, they're in the back of the room and they're not they're not engaged. Or, okay, well, I'm teaching and I was up there doing it for 25 minutes. They weren't taking any notes. They weren't standing. They weren't engaged. No wonder they were asleep. So it just really allows me a whole new look at things that I've never been able to get before. So it's just beautiful how it brings the feedback and the view. And so bringing the video in and then bringing what Torsh brings into it as giving the feedback together, it's just been a game changer.
That's so awesome. And I totally hear all of these benefits. They speak to me. And one thing that we hear from our customers all the time is about how video can be intimidating, for either a first year or even veteran teachers. What do you have to say for these teachers, who are in the process of getting comfortable with video in the classroom?
First, that it's intimidating for everyone. So nobody is alone in this. I will never forget the first time I was using video, and I was sitting on my sofa, and I have two boys, Wyatt and Gunnar, and Gunnar is my baby, and he is very outspoken, just like his mama. And so he was sitting on the sofa, and I'm watching a video of myself presenting, and I've got the volume turned up so I can hear it, and he is looking at me, and he turns around and says, "Mama, what are you watching?" And I said, "Well, I'm watching myself give a presentation." He said, "Well, it's horrible."
Oh. Good feedback.
Yes. I was like, "Ouch, kid." And he said, "Well, you keep saying like 100 times. You keep saying And I said, "Oh, well, thanks, kid. You could have been a little nicer about it, but I appreciate the feedback, But he was absolutely right. And that was my first take at watching myself. And I didn't even notice that part. Like, all I was noticing was my hands going 100 miles a minute, me walking back and forth the room, and how bad my hair looked. And I was looking at all of those things first. So I had not even gotten to that level yet. So I think just embracing that it's intimidating for every person. They're not alone in that. And be willing to look at that as watch it for the first few times to just see those pieces. Everybody has to be vain for a minute to get through that part. But then focus that feedback, focus that video and what you're looking for. Find a few look-fors that you're really going to focus on, and what you're asking for feedback on even. Because, all of the walkthrough forms and the teacher evaluation forms, every one that is used now throughout the U.S. is just overwhelming, because there are so many pieces that people are looking for when you're looking at teacher education. So educators, administrators don't come in and look at every single area when they come in. They find one or two that they're focusing on, because it's overwhelming if you don't. So I would say to teachers, find one or two things that you really want to look at in that video, and don't focus on all the others. focus on just those one or two things every time you watch a video.
I'm just sitting here because and like kind of just looking around because I've enjoyed so much about hearing about all of this. And I think about how beneficial it could be if each district or each school or network, everyone in the US had someone who's as passionate about video in the classroom as you are, because you just spoke when you're talking about like feedback and reflection and looking at the whole picture. That's definitely what I think made me a better teacher. So thank you for your passion in that area. I think that's really, really powerful. So.
Oh, thank you. It really is. And I do think that teachers just need that ability. They've never been given a tool that has been able to help them in everything they're doing. I mean, teachers are always thrown so many things and put on their plate. And I think this is the first thing that I've ever found that everybody loves, but teachers are able to use it to help them with their daily five, or their math centers, or whatever it is, that district initiative that, you know, they're going to be able to use for 5 years, and they're going to change it, and then they're going to change it again. But this is something that's going to be forever, that they can use for every one of those initiatives. So it's not like adding something to their plate, but it's adding that I always say it's like the whipped topping that makes all of those things so much better, because they can use it with every one of those things.
Absolutely. It's amazing how aligned the visions of our organizations are. It feels like together we can really make this impactful difference. Just thinking about your vision, you know, coming into audio enhancement, what do you see as your vision for the partnership with Torch Talent? Is there anything that you're most excited about what this can bring to the organizations that you work with?
Oh, absolutely. I think that I am so passionate about really changing the culture of education so that we can have a more collaborative culture where teachers are given the ability to grow and get feedback. And I think that with audio enhancement, you know, we've been able to provide that hardware and given them that ability to see that holistic view in their classroom. And then with Torch, now we're able to give that platform where they can actually give that feedback and work collaboratively with other teachers in their school or their district. And it's just, I think we're breaking down the walls of the four walls of the classroom and making us open our doors now and not be afraid to open our doors like you were talking about. You know, it's like we've always wanted to close our doors and just be kind of, don't look at me, you know, I'm scared. Now we're able to open our doors and say, hey, look, I want this feedback and I want it from the master teacher. I want it from teachers who are also struggling. I want to know that I'm not alone. And I think that it's such a beautiful marriage with audio enhancement and Torch that we can do that now. So I think the vision is just to continue creating that collaborative feel and providing that for teachers everywhere.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. Is there anything else that you wanted to share that we didn't cover? Anything else that you thought would be really powerful for our listeners?
I think that, I'm just so excited about where we're going. And I think that there is such an amazing vision between the two of us that I'm just excited to see where we're going next.
Absolutely. We are as well.
Yeah.
Be sure to tune in to our next episode of People of Talent, coming soon.
Torch Inc. drives significant gains in student success by improving educator instructional effectiveness. Torch's flagship product, Torch Talent, is an online professional learning platform that harnesses the power of video, actionable data, and expert coaching to promote high-quality growth opportunities for educators, accessible at any time and from anywhere. Torch delivers a simple mobile app for capturing classroom video and an online platform that makes it easy. Torch Talent is HIPAA and FERPA compliant and serves tens of thousands of educators in over 2,000 schools in the United States. For more information about Torch Talent or Torch Talent HS, visit torch.co.